Hello and welcome to So Farscape.
A fun-filled Farscape fancast by a fervent fan.
And a frankly fascinated first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And this is the story So Farscape.
No, we have another hiatus.
Yes, that's right. To tantalize our senses and to keep us teetering on the brink of anticipation before we continue Season 3, we're doing another Greatest Hiatus. I think it was it was several months between Eat Me and the next episode. So we're experiencing that as well, with a double helping of fan fiction. Last time we just completed Astro Girl 2's Zan Ficathon, and we may have something a little bit special for you next week. But this week, we're taking another little break from Farscape, and okay, so every time we do one of these,
yes,
we have a little chat about what should we sort of do, because it's an opportunity for you to introduce me or to help me rediscover something.
Right, yes, we're kind of breaking with the tradition that we started off with, doing movies that you hadn't seen. But yes, this week's Greatest Hiatus is a 1984 fantasy movie, fanfic I would almost say, but it's not a fanfic. 1984 Krull. The science fantasy movie, I suppose.
Okay, so we thought about, what should we do? We've looked at a lot of other science fiction or, Jim Henson productions have been, neither of which this technically is, but what it is a big swing, right? It's a lot of bold, creative choices to just, let's see if it works. Spoiler alert, it did not.
Really,
no. Commercially, no. But
oh no, it was a commercial flop.
Yeah,
it was
absolute disaster.
It cost about $30 million to produce, and I think it had about a $16 million box office take. So yeah, that was no.
Yep.
It's also not that really well received by critics, actually.
In part, I can understand it, but it holds a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
It comes from a half-remembered fever dream. I haven't seen it in 28 years.
I believe this is one of those movies that my parents rented for me when I was sick at home, and I, got to watch on the couch while I was sick as a kid.
Now, hey, that's good value, because it's a long picture.
It is. It's 2 hours.
And a lot happens.
Yes, it's got a lot of story. I mean, that's actually one of the criticism points that the critics had on it. It kind of meanders on, and there's loads of stuff happening, and they're just piling on a lot of fantasy movie tropes, but in a really big budget production.
Yeah, and in some ways really innovative. There's kind of two overriding thoughts that I want to talk about straight away. One of them is quite positive, and one of them is a little bit negative. So let's just get that one out of the positive is: can you imagine if this had been a 10-episode Netflix series?
Oh yes,
right. Like the Dark Crystal, Age of Rebellion.
Right, yes, no, absolutely.
That would have been glorious.
Epic.
You've got, there's 10 episodes worth of adventures here, the swamps and the web and all of that nonsense. And the other is that, Farscape has a tradition of empowered, really valid, strong, well-developed female characters.
Yeah.
This does not.
Oh no, there's the typical damsel.
There are
trope.
3 women in this series. One of them is the faithful bride.
The marriage is my choice. Colwyn is a great fighter.
Good fighters make bad husbands.
Yes.
Who just sort of waits purely until she's rescued, and then she has a power that she gives to her husband and never wields herself.
No.
There's the crone.
Yeah.
So there's the vengeful crone who redeems herself and dies, and there's the seductive slut, and she redeems herself and dies.
Yes.
And that's it for women.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that is literally it. Even the parents of the 2 newlyweds are both kings.
No fathers.
No mothers in sight. Not a female in the entire throne room, I believe, during the marriage ceremony.
So when Netflix does its 10-episode miniseries adaptation, how about we flip that? Just straight up, 1-to-1, all women, and we'll have a twink who redeems himself and a jock who is noble and waits and gives power, and we'll have a vengeful daddy who redeems himself, because those are the 3 phases of at least gay male life. You have the twink, the jock, and the daddy.
Yes. The witches of Eastwick.
I have not seen this film in 28 years. I was 12 the last time I watched it. And I know that it was on television, and I videotaped it, and I've watched it several times, and I know that I was 12 because my memories of this film peter out at about the 2/3 mark, which is about the attention span of a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Arguably, that's when the swinging action really starts to happen, other than the big fight scenes in the beginning. And then there's a lot of walking around the countryside.
Which I love.
With a little... yes, it's most of that was shot in Italy.
I was going to ask, because you've got these beautiful like meadows and rolling hillsides.
I think it's the Dolomites. That's where my thought went when I saw those mountains, and then I looked it up, and yes, it was shot in Italy.
Oh, so well done.
Yeah.
That must have been a delight to shoot, because it's a very pleasant land, and everybody looked very comfortable in their not very practical clothing.
There was nobody there either. The only village we see is right at the beginning, and it's burning. There is no peasants. There is no other village. There's talk about the village, but that's where the seductress slut comes from. But again, she and two friends show up, and that's it.
Yeah.
We never see anybody living in these kingdoms.
Nope. It's like... Okay, so very bold, creative choices here, because it's a sci-fi fantasy, which we're introduced to in the opening titles, which take an awful, awful long time. Man, are they a delight to listen to.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because I had forgotten that it was James Horner until,
soundtrack,
the horns blasted.
I mean, you literally said that, like, it has to be James Horner at the moment the soundtrack started,
It's actually a very repetitive soundtrack, but I never got tired of it. And it's extra repetitive because this was 1984, so he'd just come off of Aliens, where he basically repeated all the cool stuff that he'd done in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Right.
And now he repeated it again, like these mounting horns, but I don't mind. I just love it.
Part of the soundtrack for this was actually reused in Aliens.
Oh, it was a different order.
It was different the other way around, yeah.
There was still derivative from The Wrath of Khan from 1982.
Oh, yeah, no, totally, yeah.
Okay.
And then some of this was literally recycled in the Alien soundtrack.
Yes, I heard that. When it's suddenly, about halfway through the film, there's these beautiful themes that are developed, and they're super exciting and heroic, and then one of them turns minor, and you get some martial drumming in the background. That's when the, what was it, the all-terrain vehicle, busts through.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yes, opening shot is, again, a little bit Star Wars derivative. We see like a big rock floating through space, and you get these long theme shots.
Now that's interesting. It read as a tree to me. I had written down like Yggdrasil, the world tree.
I mean, to me, it looks much more rocky. I mean, it's called the Black Fortress.
Yes, approaching this two sun.
It's not very black, by the way. It's more brownish, but it's.
I love how the sort of organic shapes give way to more structural shapes. Well, in your rock interpretation, is actually kind of apt because it transitions from rock to like hexagonal,
right. It's like the Giants, the Giants Causeway in Ireland. So yes, that's a
beautiful feature that in my memory was desolate, because when I went there as a child with my mother, there was not a lot to do there, and it was just a very long drive. And now it has a lovely reception center, and in my current memory is just smothered in Chinese tourists.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not a big surprise.
Right.
It's one of those things. But yes, we see the fortress landing in the countryside. Big crack develops in the sand. There's like some air bursts going off.
Oh, it looks spectacular.
Followed by the one time we see a burning village, and it's the Slayers, which ride out and start to conquer the planet, because the beast apparently has conquered many planets, and now it's come to the beautiful world of Krull.
This it was given me to know, that many worlds have been enslaved by the beast and his army, the Slayers.
Yes. This opening narration, which does a lot of exposition, it's very heavy in exposition in the early part of the episode, the film, where it was given to me to know. What a lovely way to start a story.
The king and the queen will rule Krull, and their son will rule the galaxy, which is mentioned twice, but completely not elaborated upon.
The son doesn't come up.
No.
Like, there's even the way that this is phrased even like suggests a much more empowered female protagonist than we actually get, like, because it is the queen who chooses a king.
That a girl of ancient name shall become queen, that she shall choose a king, and that together they shall rule our world, and that their son shall rule the galaxy.
She doesn't have much agency aside from who she
picks
her heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So Daddy King 1 and Daddy King 2 are not exactly fans of each other. Apparently they're ancient enemies, and their kingdoms have been presumably at war.
I didn't choose this marriage, Charles.
Nor did I, Eric.
But now there is
Yes.
an external crisis that has to be met, and they reluctantly agree to come to each other's aid. Apparently they lost 300 men on the way over, which is like a good way to save on extras.
Yes, because only about 20 actually ride through the meadows. I thought here it was interesting that it was the daughter's idea.
Right.
She suggested this alliance being necessary and that it should be sealed
marriage.
through marriage.
Then I'll make a treaty with King Thorold. It's not necessary for you to marry his son.
It's the only way to guarantee the alliance.
Which seems like really cunning political acumen until, turns out she actually does have the hots for...
So I was kind of wondering about that, how that would work. Because, they're old enemies, but, did they meet at a social mixer at some points?
How did they meet?
Yeah, exactly. And, what's the backstory there? That's what I'm curious about.
Really fascinated about that, yeah. So...
Maybe we can write a fanfic about that.
Oh, I hear an army of fanfic writers who are shaking off the dust of decades that they haven't written for Farscape and they're charging towards their pens. I want to talk about the sort of pageantry and costuming and design here.
Yeah.
Because we're introduced to this fairy tale castle in the Dolomites, super white walls, it's Minas Tirith, but it's guarded by these guard knights who are essentially wearing BMX outfits. With some extra...
Kind of like a cross between the Emperor Palpatine's Red Guard, but then in purple and with these peculiar outfits. And look, a little bit of helmeting thrown in.
Those are BMX helmets. Come on, they've got the sun visor. And they're just painted extra sort of reddish.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
you've got this cool door with a space dartboard on it.
Right, and no hinges.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know how it opens, but later on, or shortly afterwards, when the Slayers come and break through the gate, and the gate falls open, and you can see the gate standing there, there's no hinges.
Interesting. There's a lot of interesting design choices here, and I just love how big they're. Yes, the main gate is these two big doors, and they're barred by not one beam. It is.
It's kind of boomerang shaped, though.
Exactly. It's like a 1:45 on the clock. So we see the arrival of basically Florin and Gilder, right?
Right.
From the Princess Bride, these rivaling kingdoms that happen to both be named after Dutch currencies. Hey, it took me a long time before I realized that.
Damn, yes.
And the sort of rival kingdom arrives and immediately yells their complaints because, as you said, you promised us aid, and aid never arrived.
A little bit of bickering, a little bit of two grumpy old kings who have decided to put their grievances aside and have their children face the music.
And their children are the ones who really drive this decision because the dads are about to fly at each other's throats over this promised aid that didn't arrive because they were probably taken out by Slayers.
Yeah.
We sent to you for help. None came.
20 men were dispatched to you.
We lost 300 getting here.
And the kids are very decisive. So we have... I didn't really write their names down because they went too quick and I don't care. So I've named them Brad and Janet.
Sure, let's go with that.
Okay,
Brad
right.
and Janet, yeah.
I think it's Colwyn and Lyssa, but who cares?
Yes.
And Brad is wearing sleeveless armor, which...
Yep.
That's a bold choice.
Again, yeah, it's it looks stunning. And he's got some abs, as we see later on.
Yes. He is a fine slab of lunch meat. I sort of imagine that this was supposed to be kind of a date movie, and there is, for a hot-blooded young woman who's into hot-blooded young men, there is a lot of candy to enjoy, while you're not being provided with any relatable characters that have any agency in the film. So at least you got something to do.
There you go. They have a little get-together where they oh yes, we're going to get married here tonight at moonrise. When it also, not only do they have two suns, but they also have two moons here.
It's a well-endowed planet.
It is. I like the scene where the dad and daughter arrive from downstairs and the dad and son arrive from upstairs, and the dad's both holding these gaslit torches, and they have this little thing
From this day, my kingdom is no more.
Nor mine.
A single kingdom under our children.
Agreed.
which I thought was a really nice way to go.
Yeah, that's not normally how, succession goes, right?
I suppose a king can step down. You know, it's like it happened here in the
abdication.
it happened here in the Netherlands. Beatrix abdicated in favor of Willem Alexander.
Yeah.
So I suppose in this case, they just come to an agreement and they go, we're both going to step down, and as of now, it is one kingdom ruled by both our children.
Agreed. As if that's the first time that they talked about it. And this is a moment where somewhere there's a universe where the Krull is then about the bickering over what the kingdom's going to be called.
Yes. That's at least one episode in that Netflix series.
Right. Okay, so the wedding happens, and it's this beautiful ceremony that involves water and fire. Prince Brad douses one of these torches in the water, and Princess Janet has a special superpower where she can take fire from the water. And
right, so I'm thinking that
where does this come from?
They must have a special relationship with fire on this planet, because we see later on when the prince goes and fishes the glaive, he pulls it out of magma, and later when she does eventually give the fire back to him, he can use it as a bloody flamethrower.
Yeah.
So I'm just guessing that these folks have a special relationship with fire. I mean, they've got Firemares as well, so fire must...
Oh, yeah.
Fire must just,
all over the place.
must just be a thing on Krull.
Okay.
I mean, it is a fantasy movie.
No, but that is an entirely satisfactory explanation. I'm with you.
And I did notice interesting little continuity error here, because he douses that torch in the water, and then in the rest of the wedding scene he's holding it again when it's still burning. So it kind of ruins the imagery here. But yes, just about as she is going to hand the fire back to him, the Slayers arrive at the main gates, blow the shit up, and invade the castle.
These Slayers look so cool.
They're amazing. Yeah,
they have these sort of insect skull-like helmets with these crowns of thorns. They don't really seem to yell anything or want anything or have characters or whatever.
No, they're just like Slayers.
They're riding on horseback. They have these staff weapons that fire energy bolts, which they can turn around, and then they're just...
so there's a spike on them, and when they shoot that energy bolt, that spike is gone, and then they turn it around, and it becomes kind of like a sword thing.
Oh, I hadn't caught that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like a musket, and then you flip it around, and they've got your bayonet on the other side.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's cunning.
That's how it works. At least that's how it seemed to be working.
Well, that explains why it always an opening barrage and then transition to hand-to-hand. Clever. So there's a bit of business about how to defend the castle. And again, for a second, I thought we'd have an empowered female lead when she says, we'll fight together.
But no, she gets sent off with a few guards who immediately get slain by a few other Slayers. I guess they make up their name, and the princess gets taken prisoner. There's a swashbuckling scene in the main hallway where he's literally...
so much flinning.
Yep. He literally cuts down the candelabra and swings across the room.
And he dances across the font, and he throws his sword from one hand to the other. It's ridiculous and so cool. God, if this was like a regular episode, we could actually stop and just marvel at these scenes. But there's no time.
We have to keep marveling and motoring on.
Well,
yeah, that's marveling on as well. Yeah,
quietly marveling. So we see one of these Slayers being killed by one of the dads while they're still alive, and there's this high-pitched screeching, and the armor falls apart, and like a lobster.
It's described as a worm as well, and it kind of slithers and disappears into the ground.
Yeah.
That happens whenever one of these Slayers is slain.
So is this just the little lobster creature and doesn't have to, like a hermit crab, gather its armor?
Maybe. Or maybe it's piloting the body. Maybe it's just like some sort of thing that infests a
like the
host.
little aliens in Men in Black?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, that actually kind of nice. So these fight scenes, they're at once terribly stupid and really cool.
Yeah, they were really well rehearsed, and then the Slayer suits arrived, and then they realized that they had like lots of limitations in their movement, and they kind of had to...
They couldn't see.
Yeah, they couldn't see it, they couldn't do, so that was a bit... That was a bit unfortunate. So they were supposed to be more dynamic and better performed, but yeah.
But then they all turned into Obi-Wan versus Vader.
And so yes, Prince gets knocked down by one of the blaster bolts, left for dead as the hay bale is set on fire, and... with the princess brought to the Dark Fortress, we cut to the scene where... It's funny that you should mention Obi-Wan, because we have the old man character, who's also the narrator, by the way.
Yeah, let's just keep calling him Obi-Wan. I mean, I'm sure that they all have names, but yes. I can't be bothered to look them up.
He does smears a bit of a poultice on the prince's wounded shoulder. This is where we get the beautiful ab shots.
He is a fit gentleman.
He is.
We do not know this man from anything. I mean, I say we, you and I, right? I mean, it was interesting looking at the credits. There was only 2 names that I recognized, and they were very, very far down the list. There's Liam Neeson and Robbie Coltrane.
Yep.
I don't imagine that anyone who saw this film would have realized, hey, those are going to be two world-class talents that will entertain generations.
I mean, Neeson had his little thing going on, but Coltrane seemed a little bit mostly like standing around in the background, and like he only had a few lines. He was like,
a lovely little moustache.
He had a lovely little.
He had a high fade haircut and a gorgeous little moustache. I never knew that Robbie Coltrane was ever that young.
You thought he just like sprouted,
fully formed, hairy and crotchety, and like Liam Neeson. I thought that at one point he would have been younger, but no. Apparently, he was always
he always
living
showed
up
up
in
at that
County Cork or wherever he's from.
I mean, let's see. Kenneth Marshall is the actor who plays the prince, and called Prince Colwyn. But yes,
Prince Brad.
Prince Brad.
Yes.
I'm just having a quick look. He was like he had little bits and rolls here and there, but nothing massive that you would immediately jump out. Episode of Baywatch, episode of Quantum Leap, episode of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, you say?
Lieutenant Commander Michael Eddington in 9 episodes.
Eddington?
Yeah.
Oh God, that lovely mane of hair didn't last very long, did it?
I don't remember. I don't recall who.
Oh, he's a Starfleet security officer, and he's a bit of an antagonist, a little bit, but I think he has a redemption arc.
Okay, yeah, but 9 episodes apparently. So yes.
Yeah.
That's.
So here we have, for those of you who have read, I think it's Joseph Campbell. Am I saying that right? It's the hero's journey, where folk tales are dissected, sort of like in Vladimir Prop's Morphology of the Folktale, with some basic like steps, which this film early on follows to the letter. Like here we have Obi-Wan arriving, saving the prince, giving him the seal of office that's taken off his dead dad, and telling him what he needs to do. This is called the call to adventure. And then comes the refusal of the call, because the Prince Brad does not want any of this. He even says, like, you can have my kingdom if you just let me rest.
Yes, and he's like, he has a bit of a crying fit because he lost his bride and his father. Obi-Wan admonishes him.
There is no time now for grief.
You haven't lost a father and a bride on the same day.
Nor have I become king on that day.
I have no kingdom.
Your kingdom may be greater than you know.
I give it to you, old man, and welcome to it.
I came to find a king. And I find a boy instead.
Yeah.
Then just threatens to ride on off, and like a little kid who sees mom walking off and sees that mom's not buying into his little fit, suddenly grows a spine and comes on after him and tells him, like, oh, well, in that case, where am I supposed to go?
Puts on his pleather shirt, which I can't imagine is comfortable against your skin. Actually, like, Did
you see those pants?
Oh, that as well. Can you imagine the squeaking on the set?
Yes.
Like, we have been to Pride Amsterdam once, where I know this was a different era for you, where you rocked leather pants, which looked great, and what material was that shirt?
Oh, it was rubber latex type shirt, yeah.
Now, how was that?
Uncomfortable.
And was the stench of talcum powers really as overpowering as I imagined?
No, it wasn't that bad. It was kind of weird, actually, because it's like, it was black and skin tight, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was, on the one hand, quite hot, because like it's black, so it catches a lot of sunlight, but also immediately cold again. It's like any breeze of wind immediately cools it off as well as wind.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's both warm and cold at the same time. Very peculiar to watch. But yes.
Yeah.
He's told that he needs to go collect the glaive, which is an ancient, and he got out, glaive is only a symbol. Because like the medallion that his dad had also has the shape of a glaive.
Oh, yes, and the base of the font where the fire was taken out during the wedding.
Also, and the window in the background was also kind of like glaive-shaped. So yeah, it's something that definitely comes back.
Like it's basically like a C star with a bias in one direction, 5 points and a slight curve to them. For us, it's quite an alien shape.
I suppose, yeah.
Right, I mean, there's nothing in like our cultural and architectural tradition that has that at once 5-pointed shape and swirling.
So he has to go and get it. So there's a brief horse ride to the mountains, apparently in a cave at the top of the highest peak, which it's not because you can clearly see that there are higher peaks around it, but in the background. But never mind.
An excuse to wander through the Dolomites, where over the course of what is suggested to be quite a long ride, more exposition is delivered. And I love how it's sort of like Obi-Wan tells him one line after the other, and every line is intercut where very clearly a different mountain or hill, and now they're mounted, and then the next second, like it's just beautiful.
He gets set off on his own to go to climb the top. There's a random rock slide.
That was actually, like, exciting to me.
Oh,
he has to sort of dodge these rocks that are coming. Like, it Gave me little chills.
And at the top of the mountain, there is a cave which has lava flow going through it. And here we see there's like they have this special relationship with fire because he doesn't hesitate.
I mean, he rolls up his sleeve.
Yep.
Which is an interesting choice when you're about to plunge your hand, because he sees like the 5-pointed silhouette of something in that glow that he needs to retrieve. And they don't seem to be able to make up their mind whether it's lava or acid or both. But he plunges his hand in, and there's flames
fire,
up his...
Something catches fire, yeah. Not his arm, but something catches fire.
And he pulls this...
Maybe it's just his arm hair burning off.
Oh, yeah. This sea star, this starfish out of the slime, which sloughs off its slag and reveals this beautiful golden shape that then doesn't come up for another hour and a half.
No, as one of the critics called it, a brass starfish. But yes... But yes, he immediately gets admonished by Obi-Wan when he wants to show it off.
Do not use it until you need it.
Well, how will I know when?
You will know.
No, you shouldn't
You'll
use
go
it
blind.
until you've messed up. Get hair on your palms.
We have the first of many pointless little cuts to Princess Janet in the Dark Fortress, where she's being held in a cell that looks like an eye.
Yes.
Like, it looks like the eye of like a theme park giant.
Exactly, that's exactly what it reminded me of. You know, in the Efteling, when you have the boat ride in the Fata Morgana.
The Fata Morgana.
There's like at one point there's this like huge guy standing over the water.
This djinn, and it's like his eye.
Yes,
this
exactly.
animatronic.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Apologies for those of you who've never been to the Efteling in the Netherlands. Heartily recommended.
Yes,
it's a theme park that really takes its theming very, very seriously. And gosh, like somewhere out there's a universe with a Krull theme work that lives up to that level of quality.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Right?
Yes, so...
Back to the Dolomites.
They leave the Dolomites because they go into the forest, and as they are having a little sit-around by a babbling pool where there's a little... waterfall coming in, there's a strange light suddenly appears, crashes into the water, and the first of the further party members arrives.
Yes, following the hero's journey, he goes into the dark forest. Oh, sorry, no, that's prop again. I'm mixing them up. That's okay. It's a movie about mixing sources up. The first of the helpers arrive, because this is an essential part of the hero's journey. The hero alone does not have the ability to confront the villain. In fact, he's already confronted the villain's forces and been defeated.
Yeah.
So he has to build up, much like Luke Skywalker, has to gain helpers like, I was going to say Gimli and Legolas, but this just goes to show how powerful this trope is. You have to go and wander about, and sort of aid will coalesce around you, starting off with,
Help! I'm drowning! This might have been quicksand! I might have been sucked to my death while you stood there gawping!
like, there's never explained why he arrives as a meteorite splashing into the pond and claiming that he can't swim. This introduces
Ergo the Magnificent, short in stature, tall in power, narrow of purpose and wide of vision. And I do not travel with peasants and beggars. Goodbye.
the only character whose name I remember it because he says it all the time.
Yes, Ergo the Magnificent. What is he like? Short in stature, tall in
name, narrow in
purpose, and
Yes.
wide in vision.
Yes, that's right.
And he keeps repeating that several times. He's a bit of an ass. Also a bit of a magician because, yes, he can apparently do spells and transform himself into various animals.
Yes.
He's got a thing for gooseberries.
He's obsessed with gooseberries. Yep, he has this. He has like a farmer's almanac of spells that he can cast, which seem to only work on him.
Yes, he tries it on Brad at once, but he instead himself gets turned into a goose, a fat, ugly goose.
There's a handsome goose.
I mean, that's what...
A very angry goose, I can see by one of the shots. I think you called it the Cobra Chicken.
Yes. This is from a joke. I'm not actually sure it's a joke, but it was like someone who is in, I believe in Canada, trying to get into the university building. And English wasn't quite so well, so he didn't know the word for goose. And he said I did not like the Cobra Chicken.
It's entirely appropriate. It's like someone who... This lost and found notice of someone who'd found a ferret and that he didn't know what it was. Some sort of cat snake.
It smells funny. Yeah. But yes, he tries to go off on his own, sees a Cyclops, who will later turn out to be also one of the companions, and then cowardly decides to go join them anyway.
Wait! Wait for me! I've just remembered. I've urgent business in this direction.
What business?
staying alive.
Back to the Princess Janet, who is told that she has the run of the castle, but she will be married to the Beast.
Yes, he will have her as his bride and
So I think
rule the
that this
galaxy
was
together.
Yeah, this was the Beast's motivation. Like, there is in this world a prophecy.
Right.
I'm really sort of piecing it together. There was a prophecy, and so he came to this world.
Oh, because she will choose her husband, and they will rule the planet, and their son will rule the galaxy.
That's what I'm thinking.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's why he attacked this castle and stopped attacking as soon as he had the princess, because that was his goal.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Turns out it actually has a cohesive plot.
Right, yes. This is also where we learn that the Dark Fortress moves and disappears at dawn every day and reappears somewhere else on the planet. Never in the same place twice. Sometimes in the mountains, sometimes in the sea.
Yeah.
This is going to exacerbate the problem of rescuing the princess, because they never know where it's going to be. It's only going to be there for a day.
Obi-Wan has a solution. So now that they have the Glaive, which gives them the power, they need to find the Emerald Seer or something.
Yes.
And they take a shortcut through the mountains, which unfortunately...
bandits!
Yeah.
These are the only other people we ever see on this entire movie that live here in Krull.
I love that it's Ergo who first notices that there are robbers here. He's got a lot of personality, this guy. Like, he reminded me a bit of Steve Coogan, although Steve Coogan would have been too young to play this role. He's a British comedian in a bunch of stuff. And they're accosted by these bandits. Now, this is where we introduce to Liam Neeson in an underappreciated role, Robbie Coltrane in an underappreciated role, and the bandits have like a bandit king. Who is that? Because he's amazing.
Alan, with a U, Armstrong.
Oh, in the Welsh style. Alan.
Again, not a lot that you would recognize him from. Although I must say that one of the movies that he played in, the title is fantastic. It's called Billy the Kid and the Green Bay's Vampire.
I love that. You know what? I think I actually know him.
He was in Patriot Games.
He's in Val Helsing. He's in
Sleepy Hollow.
The Mummy Returns. Yes,
right.
No, I know this. Also a gentleman whose a magnificent head of hair didn't last him as long as he might have liked.
No.
But once it was gone, what remained is a rather famous character actor. I've definitely seen him in a bunch of stuff.
No.
And he's just sensational here. Like,
yes.
This guy should have been the hero, and then this film would have been a lot more successful. He's got swagger. He's got cool. He's got a...
See, these men follow no man but me, and I follow no man at all.
There's a brief fight, but both he and Prince Brad have something in common, that they don't kill men for no reason.
Oh, you like Starbucks as well? Sorry, I watched Idiocracy the other day, so...
And he calls them to arms, Prince Brad does, and only one of them really, embraces it, a young man, and then Prince Brad pulls his sort of...
Glaive thing out?
No, it's the medallion.
But it's also shaped like the glaive.
This is going to get confusing.
Okay, yeah, the medallion. All right.
And it has a key on it that he uses to unlock the manacles, because these are escaped prisoners. And
it seems, yes. And he goes like, only the king and his high...
Lord Marshal.
Lord Marshal have the key to these manacles.
You don't look like a Lord Marshal.
No.
Look about the right age to be Turtle's son, eh?
Exact age.
What a relief it must be to have been wearing these manacles forever and then to be released from them.
Yes. Well, he actually doesn't ask to be released. He says, he takes the manacles of the boy, but the Bandit King goes I'll join you, but take them off if we succeed, and otherwise I will die wearing them. So he has a little bit of sense of pride in his manacles. So, okay, one more thing. Like, we've mentioned the Krull Glaive thing several times now. So... Mm-hmm. Okay, a glaive is a pole arm.
I knew you were going to say this. We have a proud tradition of obsessing over different types of arms. Yes, and way back when we were still doing Cover My Ass, you gave me a whole a 6-hour diatribe in my memory of the various types of. There was the Guisard. Yeah. Let me see if Kaki can remember. A glaive was one of them, and that. How is that? It sort of looks like a crab's claw, right? Or a lobster claw on a stick. Is that the glaive?
I think it's like a blade with a little hook, sometimes a little hook on it. It clearly is derived from the old Latin, whatchamacallit, gladius.
Gladius?
Yes.
But that's a short sword.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's also still in modern French, a glaive is a short sword.
Ah, okay.
But yes, it was chosen because it was a kind of undefined name, although yes, since the 15th century, glaive is a polearm. And here it's just a 5-pointed brass starfish with knives on it.
Good. It's one of those things where he's Prince Brad, when he sees it, he's never held one before. He couldn't possibly know that these claws will come out.
No.
This could have been a quick end to this film if he'd held it in such a way that when the claws came out, it severed his artery.
Yeah.
I was thinking of when Obi-Wan in Star Wars hands Luke the lightsaber and he looks down the barrel straight away.
There is a shot of but that is not in the movie, actually. It is there's a famous photo of it, but that's actually a still from a production still, not actually in the movie. But yes, I know.
I thought he was going to do the pork maneuver.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And once again, they're being observed by this silent, statuesque Cyclops.
Yep.
Another fantastic animatronic creation, because this Cyclops, it takes a while for him to enter the story, but he stands out with such dignity. And in my memory, he has been blended with Andre the Giant's character from The Princess Bride.
I can see why.
Right? I remember him with a distorted American accent.
Okay, interesting.
Versus the English accent that he has. In my memory, they sort of blended together.
Yeah, it's a English-American collaboration, this movie, but it was almost entirely shot in the Pinewood Studios in
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, almost all these sets are internal sets. A few of them were external in Italy and England.
Right, yeah.
When finally the Cyclops is introduced after Ergo picks some gooseberries and a Slayer is observing him, and the Cyclops intervenes by throwing his spear at the Slayer.
Who dies off screen, and then Ergo faints, and people cry to his rescue, and, who saved you here?
It was a monster, and then it's a Cyclops, and we get a little bit of a backstory about the Cyclopses,
who apparently used to live on another world. So this is definitely interstellar travel is known somehow,
right? That's why you get the whole rule the galaxy. This beast has already conquered many planets before, as we learn in the opening crawl.
Wait, but how does anybody travel between? I
don't know. There must be other
spaceship fortress. I guess
the spaceship fortress teleports. Maybe there's other ways to get from one planet to the other. This is the magic fire people. Maybe this is the Fire Nation planet.
It's really kind of a tragic romantic story here, where apparently his people used to have two eyes like other men, but they sacrificed one of their eyes in an exchange with the beast.
Yes,
in exchange for the ability to see the future.
But they were cheated. And the only future they are permitted to see is the time of their own death. They're sad, solitary creatures.
Which is a bad wish, I think. Ergo at one point has a line that seems to come out of nowhere as he passes the Cyclops, saying, "I still think it's a foolish wish," which seems like it's calling back to some other line that he never winds up saying in the film. Maybe it was cut out or something.
Well, there's a discussion he has with the boy, with the seer's assistant or brother, as he calls him, and they go he wishes for a puppy.
That's okay. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, because he's just been transformed into a puppy and transformed back out, and then he says it's a foolish wish. Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
I think that's what he was referring to. But yes, speaking of the boy and the seer, that's where they're going. They manage to find a particular rock face which opens up in a green light, and inside we have an old man.
It's a sort of Wile E. Coyote / Roadrunner situation where they can walk through this wall. It's an interior scene. It looks like some kind of tavern. Lots of kryptonite glowing around.
Emerald, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh yes, he's the Emerald Seer.
Yeah, and he has this big emerald which starts floating, and he starts using it for doing some divination purposes to learn where the Black Fortress is.
He has a young boy, apprentice assistant, who's also wearing green like he is. And it is not a very successful divination.
No, because the beast intervenes, his beast's hand appears, grabs the crystal, shatters it. It suddenly turns heckin' windy for a moment.
Oh, yes, my vision is opposed, but there is a place where we could go.
Yes, because there's the Emerald Temple, which is in the middle of the swamp, where 3 trees grow as one, and now we are on a quest to go to the swamp.
Wow. Anyone who's sat through this entire film, and hey, I say that as if it's a slog. It's not.
Oh, no.
It is a breathless film, but we're moving through it as if we were riding Firemares.
Because the movie is literally 2 hours, and yes, we want to not have this podcast be 2 hours, I think.
Into the swamp they go, where we get a little banter between all of these characters. Finally, a shot with Robbie Coltrane and Liam Neeson together as they mock the Prince of Thieves, who he snaps snapped some bits of kryptonite.
Yes.
And he wants to show off, hey, we've got this wealth. Oh, no, they're just dumb rocks now.
And it turns out, and the little smug smile from the seer. So yes, this was also on Studio 007 in the Pinewood Studios, one of the largest sound stages in the world.
Whoa.
Where they built this swamp. It was apparently very uncomfortable because it was shot in the winter of '83 and it was quite cold there and the place was not sufficiently heated.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So,
especially for the... some slayers come out of the water. They must have been chilled to the bone.
Yeah.
I hope they were wearing dry suits under the armor.
Yeah, I would so, or at least wetsuits.
So we get another cool fight. There's an opening barrage from all of their lightning weapons, and then it goes hand to hand. The thieves, the army of thieves, actually make good on their names. They are really capable against these slayers, far more so than the Knights of the Kingdom.
But the fight is probably only a distraction, because while the entire band is busy fighting the slayers, a doppelganger approaches the seer and kills and replaces him.
Now, it was an interesting scene because this doppelganger approaches and then reaches out and the fingers become gnarled.
Yeah, long nails growing into claws.
Clasping around the seer's throat. But the changeling, which we learn that it is, and actually it seems to be weeping. Seems to be tormented by having to do this.
Oh, I thought it was the seer who was being tormented.
I thought so too, but cutting back and forth, the seer who is being strangled has his mouth open and is screaming or choking in pain, and I think it's the other one who cries.
Oh,
now,
okay.
This relates to what we call the seducing wench that we meet later on. She's also a changeling, and she is also tormented by what she has to do. So it seems as if this changeling is
Was she a changeling? She had the same black eyes, but I thought that was just the mark of the beast or something.
And her hand also changes into this gnarl. So they seem to have the ability to kill with a touch when they...
Right, yes.
Which is what this seer wants to do. As the replacement seer, the changeling is led off first by Prince Brad. He's got his hand on Prince Brad's shoulder and sort of spider walking along his shoulder,
Getting
closest to that juicy neck.
But the thief,
the Prince of
Thieves, intervenes and takes over the leading.
A quick cut back to Princess Janet, who's walking through an extremely vaginal interior.
Yes.
Right? All of these...
Well, I'd call it intestinal, but yes.
Well, all of these sort of oval-shaped hallways, and some of them, seal in on themselves.
Yes, for someone who got the run of the palace, there seems to be an awful lot of messing around going on with her.
Now, multiple days have passed. That dress is not a comfortable thing to sleep in.
I suppose not, no.
Her hair is amazing, though. And we get our first glimpse of the beast.
Yes, big red eye, huge face.
Very distorted through the lens.
Right, that was an intentional effect. So it's it's a big animatronic suit. It's meant to be worn. It's got a cable thing going for heartbeat and all the other controls in it. But it was always intentionally filmed through distortion, as if to make it look like it's not entirely on the same realm or plane of existence.
Right, yeah.
So that was a deliberate artistic choice to,
because it's sort of stretched out and there's weird sort of lensing and prisming.
Yep.
Excellent. I mean, it's often a good idea to keep your villain mysterious, especially if it's an alien-looking creature. Keep it, just intriguing. It's a fine line, because remember in Farscape, we're a Farscape podcast on Home on the Remains, the Kidva. Yeah. The Kidva was really so out of view all the time that by the time you finally got to see it, was clearly a dude in a suit. I don't think it was as effective as here. There's another scene in the swamp which shows off. This
is the 80s. There has to be a quicksand scene,
Yeah, which does not work this way.
No.
It's much easier to explain in Dutch, where the word for quicksand is drijfzand, which is floating sand because you float.
Right.
Because sand,
you'll never sink more than waist deep into quicksand because, quicksand is denser than water and much denser than a human body.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you know how to get out?
Swim, I suppose.
Because you won't be able to swim because you're up to about your waist, about your belly button, and then your legs are kind of stuck because it sort of locks in place, right? Yeah. The sand sort of collapses. So what you do is you lean your weight on one leg, and then you make sort of stirring motions with your other leg.
To get the...
Gradually stirring it to get more water into the sand until you can raise that up a bit, and then you lean on that one, and you do the same with the other one. And you sort of gradually... Because the sand sort of wants to lock in, and you can walk upward that way.
Okay.
So I've been told.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's lots of back and forth thing, forming human chains.
Attacks!
So apparently this was cork, clearly floating on a bit of water. And
I thought you said like County Cork in Ireland.
No,
okay.
It is in Cork. It's also a very unconcerned Robbie Coltrane. It's like you can see him like he's just kind of like going around there in the back, like just like going through the quicksand.
It's just a wee paycheck for me.
The ground, it's sinking. It is the power of the beast.
Link up! Make a change! Get me out! Run! Get hold of him! Hey!
Yep.
It was really unclear what all of these characters were called. They
had
used
names,
several
but yeah.
names, but I couldn't really keep track of them all. One of them dies. It's not one that we know, I don't think. I don't think it's the young man, but...
No, we see him later, because the young man is the one who later bounces off one of the horses.
Exactly. Unable to be saved, and having made it through the swamp... I mean, the team is kind of complete at this point, because the Cyclops has like revealed himself and joined them, and shaken hands a bit. There was a fun bit of business between Ergo and the kid whose name was Ditch or Titch.
Titch, I think.
I'm Titch.
Titch and the Cyclops, because there's a bit of mistrust, and like this is a really fun little trinity where Ergo is sort of trying to protect the boy who is much more worldly and experienced than he is.
Yes, for someone who seems to get around a bit, he does. The kid seems to know a lot and be quite,
I mean, he's had a decent education, it seems, from the seer, who unfortunately turns out to have died in the meantime.
All right, this is actually where the exchange with the changeling happens.
Yes, it's while they're all stuck in the swamp.
Yes.
That's where. So the attack was just an attack, and then this was a secondary.
I misremembered it.
Oh, it's fine. There's plenty of confusion to go around. But they do reach the temple, which is just 3 trees growing together.
Yeah.
And the seer says,
He who seeks the knowledge must lead me. No one else may approach.
But it's a trap.
Yes, because just as the seer starts to reach out to try and choke Prince Brad, the Cyclops, who has stayed behind to watch for people who might be following them, sees the corpse of the real seer floating up out of the quicksand, because apparently that's what quicksand does.
Yeah.
It just goes suddenly pop, and comes...
Runs.
Throws his trident and kills the changeling.
Oh, yes, it is a trident, isn't it?
Well, it's actually a four-dent, because there's a tiny little spike in the middle, but...
Oh, handy.
Yeah, not quite, but it's consistently referred to as a trident.
And the changeling's face melts. It's a really cool effect. I think that they made like a cast of this actor's head out of latex and then like lit a fire inside of it, because you got these...
Looks about like what's happening,
blackening and pustules and...
And like so many of the beast's cronies or henchmen, whenever they die, they just kind of like disappear into the ground.
Oh, yes. Convenient.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a video game where anybody you shoot just kind of disappears.
Yeah, you don't want to keep bothering with all that rendering.
all the bodies lying around, yes.
Obi-Wan has an idea, however. All is not lost. There is one other person who might know, and that's the Widow of the Web.
Yes.
Prince of Thieves is skeptical.
But, well, I mean, he hasn't got anything else to go by.
So some further trekking, during which like the bond between Ergo and Ditch continues.
Ergo turns himself into a puppy.
Yeah, does he do that on purpose?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
No, I'm pretty sure he does that to help the boy, to give the boy a little bit of puppy time.
Yeah, he's a little beagle. It's really adorable.
And once they get to the right forest, then Obi-Wan goes off and goes to find the Widow of the Web, who turns out to be his ex.
Yeah. The thieves and our heroes all stay behind, and the Prince of Thieves says to Liam Neeson, "Hey, you're a bit of a slut. Doesn't one of your wives live here?"
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And she cool? It's not her strongest point.
There's a community of sluts here, yeah.
Very fine sluts.
Yes, yeah. I kind of like that. Like, I hope that this is not just some kind of like patriarchal luxury, but you know, a civilization of sluts is a fine like culture to belong to.
It sounds like we wandered into an episode of Oglaf.
A rogue slut has been sighted in the countryside.
But yes, as the Princess Janet is still moving around the fortress, she finds a room that looks kind of like the inside of a mouth, I suppose. Lots of teeth, and she is once more confronted by the beast, who now shows that he can take any form that he likes. He takes the form of Prince Brad.
In his marriage
uniform.
scarf.
Yep.
Yeah.
But still with the red eyes.
Yeah, and she backs away, and I'm like, "Hey, Janet, hear him out."
Yeah. I mean, this is good. And he goes like, "Oh, your prince will betray you because look, he's making out with a slut."
Yes. He sort of FaceTimes
Yes.
to what is literally happening right now. Like it's
At the time, yes.
kind of economical to have these scenes because yes, one of these neighborhood sluts is talking to Prince Brad and saying but you're without comfort and don't you?
This is a lie.
I know how painful it is to be far from the one you love.
He will betray you.
Comfort me for one night.
He will not.
I can't betray my bride.
Then he will die.
Let me comfort you.
I can't accept comfort when she has none.
Very Galahad.
He refuses her. She goes, you must now reward me because I didn't kill you. I could have killed you because I am one of the beast's henchmen.
Does she say it like that? I thought
Not in those words, but pretty much, yes.
Well, that's not what I got from it. I mean, maybe I didn't pay as close attention as you did. What I saw was that he rejected her, and so her secondary mission was to kill him.
Right, and then she doesn't.
Because, in that moment, I loved you. She is redeemed from her sluthood by falling for the hero, and she tells him that. And that's when Princess Janet says to the beast, haha, it is not I who has betrayed, it is you.
Yes.
Because love is mightier than whatever.
And the beast swipes right, and the girl disappears with a scream.
Remember me.
This way!
And thus, the number of female characters with agencies is reduced once again. Now, we're about to be introduced to a new one, which is the Widow of the Web.
Yep.
Don't get too excited. She doesn't last very long.
No. So, yes, Obi-Wan has to, climb through the Death Star, which is kind of spider-webbed up a little bit, because it's the Widow of the Web.
I love this. And one of these web strands is, there's a name for it. There's a signal strand or something.
Oh, okay.
When certain spiders, their webs are constructed to be mostly sticky, but then there's a few strands that are slightly slack but very strong, and while they're resting in the center of the web, they keep a leg on each one of these so they can feel the vibrations.
Yeah.
And then when something hits it, or they know where it is.
Oh, that's very clever.
And so the spider of this web, which is a really cool creation.
Yeah, it's a big kind of semi-translucent spider.
You can see red organs on the inside, and it's approaching. It looks a little janky.
This was actually the first scene they shot in the production schedule.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess he was the first one that was cast or available because he...
I guess, or the first set that was ready.
It's an elaborate set.
It is. I did it without any safety wires too, so...
Yikes.
That would have been kind of too visible, but... Yeah, so the spider is kind of stop-motion-ish, I'd say.
Yes, this is an unfortunate bit of timing because it was a year away from the general availability of the technology that would really, really improve stop motion. It was introduced in Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back with the AT-ATs.
Right.
And it's where you do stop motion, but you move the camera and the object every time you take a frame.
Right.
So they're all slightly motorized. And this was okay to do with mechanical devices, X-Wings and AT-ATs. About a year later, I think Dragon Slayer would be released with a very young Peter McNichol, which would have an animatronic dragon where sort of a living creature was also animated like that. And it was just out of this world how much better it looked than this janky staccato stop motion.
But he manages to make his way through the web, and just as the spider is about to attack him, he calls out the name of the widow, who recognizes it and grants him time by turning her hourglass, which freezes the spider and gives him time to get to the center of the web.
It's not a lot. He approaches the center and he sees a figure through the haze of spider webs and thinks, oh, I'm here now. But
turns
no,
out skeleton.
It's Skeleton.
He does have to be a little Tarzan swinging along the web until he finally makes his way in. And there's an old woman sitting there who turns out to be his old girlfriend.
Ish. This one, as a staunch modern feminist, I did not really appreciate because there's quite some ageism. She is this withered crone who laments the loss of her youth, who has been embittered by abandonment by the man that she loved in her youth.
Yes, apparently he had to leave, and he didn't know that she was pregnant at the time, and because he'd left her, she killed their son.
Yep.
And her punishment is to sit here in the web.
And he could never forgive her, but he has forgiven her. This is
instantly,
all of this is just super. And because he's forgiven her, then she can see through his eyes, and she sees her beautiful young self in the mirror, and now she's beautiful again. And that's what the fuck.
It's so weird. But yes, his vision gives her youth, and she asks which vision she can give him, and he's like, give me the location of the fortress.
Yeah, I don't care about all your shit that you've got going on. Let's just not deal with your emotional baggage or you as a character, but just this is the thing that I need, because that's what women exist to do, to provide motivation, danger, and power to men so that the plot can move on.
The plot does need to be advanced rather quickly because he needs to leave the web again, and she says no man has ever left the web.
And he looks at the hourglass and
sorry, I can only do that once. But if I smash it and I give you the sands of my life, the spider cannot harm you, but your life will also run out as soon as the sand does.
This is another one of those situations where wouldn't it make a lot more sense for her to walk out and then continue his mission and for him to die here?
That seems to make sense.
Right.
I mean, if she's allowed to.
She's got her character arc has been resolved. She's apparently been redeemed of her crime. So what's the punishment?
But no, she goes away.
Just another little suggestion for Netflix. If you're listening, you're going to make your Krull remake.
We want in on the writer's room.
He barely manages to escape. It's another thrilling, like, our rapid fire commentary doesn't do justice to just how exciting all this is.
No, but as soon as he manages to leave the lair, Spider returns to the center of the web and like there's a little bit of electric crackling there, shakes it apart and presumably dies along with the widow of the web. Which is like, I mean, she's not really a widow of the web, is she? If like this dude is her I mean, he was alive, so like even if they were married, then she's clearly not a widow. But
she's this is a missed opportunity. Spinster would have been better.
Oh, damn, yes.
Right?
Spinster, yes, very good.
What about your life?
I give it to the girl who bears my name.
Obi-Wan makes his way back to the camp and manages just to tell them that the Dark Fortress will be in the Iron Desert from dawn on for one day, and then he dies as the sand runs out of his hand. And again, I'm not doing it justice. This is like a lot more dramatic than we're making it out here. The problem is the Iron Desert is like 1,000 leagues away, and I did a bit of research on this, and this means it can be anywhere between 4.7 and 7.4 thousand kilometers, because a league, originally speaking, is very ill-defined. Like, by these days, it's considered to be 3 statute miles, I believe. But historically speaking, there's quite a lot of distance in a league.
And is that are they like nautical leagues? Because that's why I know like 20,000 leagues under the sea.
I know, because it's one of those things that like a lot of people had different lengths for what and one league exactly is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it sort of makes sense. I mean, this is like also one of the reasons why Napoleon is considered a short ruler. He was not short, even for the time. But there was 2 things. The French foot is longer than the English foot. So yes, he was 5'2", but that's a lot taller
than it sounds in English,
And he also surrounded himself with, like, his personal guards were big old basketball players.
Oh, okay.
So he looked a little shorter in comparison to his his
paladins. That makes sense, yeah. But yes, fortunately, there is one creature who can travel 1,000 leagues in a day.
Firemares. Firemares can travel 1,000 leagues in a day.
We get a really cool, like, horse rustling scene with these beautiful animals. Like, what are they? Frisians? Clydesdales.
Yeah.
Not a famously fast horse.
No. But they're big.
And they got these lovely, like, feathered fetlocks, and it's just this beautiful, like, they're clearly all domesticated. Like, they've got the blaze on the forehead, which is one of the traits of domesticated animals.
Fair point, yeah.
But there's a cattle rustling scene, and yes, the boy, in quite a dangerous stunt, jumps off a rock onto one of the herd members and bounces off.
Good thing he picked the last one, because...
Yeah.
It's also fun to see that if you look a little bit at the background and the ground itself, when the first scene of the horses riding into this canyon in which they're going to do the hustling, it's still kind of like green and fresh, and then it almost immediately turns into a big mud pool in the next shot, because they've clearly been driving those horses back and forth a lot through that canyon that day.
And the grass doesn't survive that long. Certainly not with those big old dinner plate hooves that Clydesdale have.
No.
The Cyclops points out the grey one is the leader, so the leader of the Firemares, whom Prince Brad lassos, and we see very clearly that is not a mare. Then again, I don't know. We don't know how they identify.
Fair point.
It's like that Doctor Who episode, and
his name is Susan, and he wants you to respect his choices.
Hell yeah.
So yes, off they go. The Cyclops says he has to stay because his time has come, and if he does not die in the way that he has foreseen, he will put himself in great pain.
Yeah, it's something that the Titch also
explains to Ergo.
Explains.
Yeah.
And finally, Ergo shakes his hand. That's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Ergo shakes the Cyclops' hand and says goodbye in gratitude. And
Well, I'll ride with you.
I have to stay here, my friend.
We had no time.
this amazing sequence of them riding these Firemares, and the Prince of Thieves is actually like standing on its back. It's a bad horsemanship, dude. But
oh yes, they must have set quite a lot of scenery on fire because, like, you see these smoky shots.
Yeah.
They must have just like literally put the countryside on fire to make those. But yes, there's some nighttime riding, and at one point they actually go riding through the sky.
Yes,
on flaming hoofed horses.
It's
horses breathing
so cool.
Across the end of the sky.
Yippee-yi-yo. Yippee-yi-yo. Firemares in the sky. Yeah, because they only have until the next sunrise to get into the dark fortress.
Yes, they arrive in the Iron Desert, ride to the fortress, and start climbing it.
They're immediately beset by these fortress slayers. Now, they're different from the slayers that we've seen before. They have white armor.
Yes. The gun ports open, and they start shooting through them, trying to impede their approach into the castle.
A couple of thieves buy it, and there's really not a lot they can do. Prince Brad says we should rush them, and the Prince of Thieves says, no, that's too dangerous.
Suicide, yeah. Robbie Coltrane gets it here, I believe.
He has a little quiet death scene.
Yeah. But fortunately, the Cyclops appears, and he seems to be impervious to the blaster bolts of the Slayers.
Yeah.
He walks straight on through, knocks one of the guys out of his shooting port, and holds it open as it starts to close. Buys everybody enough time to get inside, and then dies his horrible death.
As he is slowly crushed in this door.
Yes.
Now, this part I remembered.
Yes.
Yeah, this one stuck with me as it was such a tragic death.
Yeah. You assume he would have died peacefully wherever it was, as long as it was with the horses. But no, he chose to come help his compatriots and pay the price for that.
Maybe that was just, he just realized, I'm in an opium meadow. Yes, as was foretold, this is where I'm supposed to die. And he got his pipe out. And
Fair point, yeah.
But no, he decided to be the hero, sentencing himself to great pain. It's not a great way to go.
No.
But our heroes are now inside the fortress just before it vanishes from the Iron Desert and reappears in, hey, another meadow in the Dolomites.
Yeah, there's a lot of running through the castle, a little bit of shooting, more slayers. There's a scene in which a hallway splits in two. And apparently this was like quite a dangerous scene to film, because those were two enormous set pieces which were controlled by hydraulics, and they nearly crushed the
Prince Brad's legs.
Prince Brad, and like at one point when he was being slow in delivering his lines, they actually had to cut it off because they realized that they weren't going to be able to pull him out in time.
Yeah, because the floor splits open and then it seals back together again, and he just barely makes it out. And
apparently this was like super dangerous, and
health and safety would have something to say about this.
Yeah.
Still, $30 million went a long way in 1984.
Oh yes,
Liam Neeson buys it. Unfortunately,
yes,
the death of the last slut.
How many wives does he have?
About 7 or 8 at the last count. Well, he's a travelling man, you see.
He had about 8 wives or so, yeah, so I guess you could call him slutty.
My traveling days are over, my friend.
No, we'll get you out of here.
No, here's where I stay.
Well, he says, tell my wife I loved her, and, nobody says to his face, which one? They all just let him die, and we'll send a group message.
Prince Brad arrives at the prison room where his wife-to-be
Princess
Janet is, and he finally knows, he puts to the Prince of Thieves, he puts his hand on, no, let me handle this, and he kindly pulls out the glaive, throws it in the air, starts controlling it like a RC drone.
Yes, I haven't written down the autoglaive, which I know is a different thing, but I thought it was a fun joke.
Yes. And slowly starts cutting a hole in the wall. This takes quite a long time, long enough for the prince, the boy, and another one of the surviving thieves to get sucked through some sort of the wall, and then they get sucked into the hallway of spikes, where they...
Yes. So there's 3 of the thieves are in the spiky hallway that, it's also oval, so it's the... Oh... Yeah, I'm going to say it. Vagina dentata.
Oof.
Yeah.
of the fortress.
Meanwhile, like Titch and Ergo have also been separated, and Ergo has transformed himself, this time into something actually useful.
A tiger, yeah.
Well, I say useful, but like a goose would have done the job as well.
Well, yes.
They're fierce guard animals.
He takes out a few slayers in tiger form, though, while Prince Brad starts to fight the beast with the glaive.
Yeah, not a very long or interesting fight.
No.
This is one of the downsides of keeping your villain creature in mystery. It's like it's just off screen and out of frame, and he keeps hitting it with the glaive until finally like it lodges in the beast, who seems to die.
Yeah, he tries to pull it back with his force power, but it fails. They go running off, and this already foreshadowed a little bit that the beast isn't quite dead because the spikes are still not moving and keeping everybody trapped.
Yeah, they seem to be related somehow in a way that isn't really explained. He climbs over the fallen beast, reaching for the glaive. I don't know why. Like, job done, I
guess he wants it back. You know, it is like the symbol. Brad and Janet can briefly have a moment together, but then the beast is revived.
Aha!
Janet here now realizes, like, oh no, it's us.
Colwyn, it's not the glaive, it's you.
Lyssa, it's us. It's us he can't defeat.
Goes like, oh.
Another heartbeat. I thought, are we going to have a moment of empowerment? Are they going to fight together? No. She has power that she gives to him to wield, and now he has all the power, and that's how it should be. And she's sort of cheering him on with her pom-poms and her utter lack of agency.
And he just has now a flamethrower hand, which he uses to roast the beast. And
flame-broiled lobster.
There's a little bit of screaming and shouting, and as the beast dies, the spikes withdraw. Another cliche, the big bad guy is being defeated, and now the big bad fortress starts crumbling and falling apart.
For some reason, this place is going to blow.
Yep.
It does look cool. There's all of this. I mean, it looks like phosphorus, what's it called, fireworks coming down. Really, really dangerous stuff, guys.
Yes, this looks like super...
magnesium, sorry, that's what I was thinking
magnesium flares, yes, that's the one.
They see a trail of blood, and someone immediately intuits, that must be Ergo.
That's Ergo! He may still be alive!
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, no idea. But yes, Ergo and the boy are found, brought along together, more running, more shooting with a few slayers before they manage to escape the fortress just in time.
Which takes a long time to disintegrate and explode, and I thought this was such a good effect.
Yeah, it's like it all the pieces that break off float up into the air. More of those magnesium flares also floating up into the air, and peace is restored to Krull.
This must have been a really complicated thing to set up, because this model was, I mean, clearly hung upside down and fallen apart, but like to have it fall apart in the right number of chunks, like this.
Well, it was built like a big jigsaw and put together specifically for this purpose, that they could like then let it fall apart again.
Yeah, okay, but you want the top part to fall off first, and then the next part to fall off. So you've got to have like some kind of wiring system to prevent them from falling off.
And you have to shake it, and you have to let the dust go up and down. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really, really great. And then it's finally gone. We have, let me see who survives. Yes, the youngest of the thieves, who he got a name like Nino or Mino or something.
Pretty sure it's like, I didn't.
Titch the boy, Ergo the wizard, the Prince of Thieves, whom Prince Brad offers to free. Like, these final moments don't really include Princess Janet at all.
No, she's just kind of standing there off in the background.
Like, the only thing that she does is to sort of reassure the boy that Ergo will be fine, having not examined him in any way or whatever. Like, just...
No, he'll be fine, yes. One final exchange between Brat and the Prince of Thieves, where he gives him the keys to unlock the manacles, and then he goes, keep the keys.
The key's yours.
Only the king and his Lord Marshal carry this key.
That's right.
And he just like grins at him and goes like, yep. And this is missed opportunity that he could throw the line back.
You were
like
screaming when you were watching this.
Yes, it's like, oh, come on. You could have said, like, you don't look like a king to me, and that would be like...
That would be a great line to end on.
It would be fantastic. It would like be mirroring the original exchange between the two, and it was just like such a missed opportunity there. That's...
And over this meadow... Credits.
Yeah.
And that's how we end. Like, we still don't see them like triumphantly returning or like the peasants rejoicing.
There's nothing to return to. There's no peasants in these countries. There's.
Wait, you think they're the last living people on this entire
planet? I'm just
planet?
making this up.
No, I'm with you.
Still, Slutsville is still there, of course.
Oh yes, that's right. Hopefully, they can teach Brad and Janet some fun stuff to like.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to romance than maybe you've thought about so far. Let us teach you from the Book of Sluts.
Yes. So yes, labyrinth, not labyrinth. It's Krull.
Wow, no, you're not wrong. I got a lot of Labyrinth vibes. I got Dragon Slayer,
Star Trek.
A bit of Star Trek from the music,
and Star Wars, of course, and
Princess Bride.
It was called derivative by critics. You know,
look, this is only fair in the 80s. If this came out now, it would be this amazing pastiche and like mashup of all these sources, and it'd be so innovative to mash up all these divergent sources. But the 80s was a time where, Willow.
Right, yes. Right? Very much so, yeah.
You had all these stories coming, and they were also original by current standards, right? They weren't based on books, although I think Willow had like a children's book that came before or after. I'm not sure, but just the creative gumption to create this world where, over the credits, then the prophecy is repeated.
A girl of ancient name shall become queen. She shall choose a king, and together they shall rule our world. And their son shall rule the galaxy.
Was there going for a sequel?
That's really the only way they could do it. You couldn't have a Krull 2 that was also on this world because it already faced the greatest existential crisis that it can have.
And now it's like, my headcanon, Flash Gordon is the
Yes!
This is in the Flash Gordon universe.
Yes! Like, Krull 2, it opens, something terrible happens, and like Lana and Jor-El, they have to put their baby into like some cryopod. He's found by some jock, like a jock couple in Kansas, raised as a son until he discovers his birthright to rule the galaxy. Yes! And he marries Ming in this one. Right?
Wow. Okay. Yes.
Let's do that.
Let's go for that. Let's see if we can get in the writer's room on that one.
Gosh, yeah. Can we please have this? Can we have this as a 2022 like Netflix or perhaps a more ethical streaming service?
Krull 2, yes.
Yeah, Krull Age of Rebellion, and then a season 2 where it follows like a next generation Flash Gordon who like discovers some feelings that he didn't know he had for Ming the Merciful. Ming the. Can I do anything with that? I'll figure it out. We have time.
So yes.
Okay. Woof.
What a movie.
Yeah. Do we want to do any Willies or Woodies? It's really hard.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I mean, I think we should. Let's see.
Okay, my Willie goes to women in this. Like the role of women. It's all dudes on the party. And
it's a sausage fest, yes.
Which is not something I normally object to in media, but you tend to have to pay for those or they're password protected tumblers.
Okay, and your Woody?
Okay, we have a recommendation from Her Majesty, the podcat. Oh, this is really tricky. I think Ergo.
Okay.
Ergo was genuinely fun.
All right.
Right, he had some cool lines.
Yeah.
He had a sense of comedy. Oh, I say that. The Prince of Thieves. Now he had a lot of personality and verve. Oh, tricky. Do you want to pick one of those, or do you have another Woody?
I think I would definitely go for the Prince of Thieves because Ergo was the comic relief character.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, Ergo had a lot of personality as well, but none of it good.
Fair. Oh, he was the cowardly lion who found his courage, though, or cowardly tiger who found his.
Right, in order to help protect the
I guess he was like Cringer who became Battle Cat.
Oh,
yes,
God,
season 3, Titch returns, but then he's He-Man, and this is also Eternia.
Okay, so speaking of Titch, after the seer dies, Titch is very sad because he was my only family, and then Prince Brad goes,
"We're your family now."
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good, a nice moment in this movie.
Yeah, sort of brings it back to Farscape and the theme of found family.
Yes.
Ooh. Yes. We've done this before for the Muppets. Which
right.
Farscape characters are we going to relate these characters to?
Well, okay, Prince Brad is John, obviously.
I was going to say Aaron.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Because, let's be fair, Aaron looks a little bit better in black leather than John does.
True.
Just a little bit.
No, I agree. In that case, let's see. Ergo is... Rigel, yes. Yep. That's what, very much so. That makes Liam Neeson's character Dargo.
Oh, yes, very good. He even has that sort of look to him.
Yeah.
Like the longer nose and the longer hair. I dig that.
Yeah.
I think...
I mean, the princess would have to be Pilot. It's like
I was going to go Cyclops because
Cyclops
he's
pilot.
immensely helpful and calm.
No, very good. Yeah, no, I agree. I can see that happening. Also, there's a lot of standing around in the background. I mean, he was doing a lot of Legolasing in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which is partially due to the fact that he couldn't see bugger all through that
Right,
prosthetic.
he's got the animatronic thing in front of his...
on his forehead. He only could see through one eye hole.
Which made it impressive that he could shake hands with someone, because that's not an easy target to hit.
You can see that kind of going wrong when he tries to shake hands with Prince Brad. It's a little bit awkward. But on the other hand, a Cyclops would have that problem because they wouldn't have any depth vision. So
so a spear is not a good weapon for a Cyclops.
No.
A crossbow would be great.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's much more point and shoot, yeah.
Right, I don't have 3D vision because my eyes are a little bit wonky and one of them's sort of okay and the other one's a backup. But the first time that you took me out to the gun range for some marksmanship practice, I did pretty okay against those clay pigeons.
Yeah.
Because it's an entirely two-dimensional operation.
It is, yeah. You just have to figure out how far your lead is.
It's XY coordinates and a little bit of drop-down, and that's it.
All right. So, I guess this was Krull. That means next week we're going to...
Okay, a special treat for next week's fanfiction, but everybody, hey, be cool. So do you remember, Kay, how I, thanks to Matatron, our listener, you got a copy of the Farscape magazine, the first edition from July 2001. That happened to feature a story set in the Farscape universe, written by Keith R.A. de Candido.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, hey, nobody tell the Jim Henson Company. What if we read that one?
Okay, that sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to that.
Good, because I've already reached out to the writer who said, well, it's not up to me.
It's not,
and that's about as much as he was legally able to encourage us. But I think in this, he did not say that we could do it.
No,
but I think
kind of like okay.
I've had a little glance at it. I'm really curious about it. So that's going to be our fanfiction next time. And then after that, we're going to return to Farscape 307.
Yep.
And let's just keep the suspense.
Okay, let's
right? Because this was a long time to wait when Farscape was airing. I remember just being even more frustrated with this after Eat Me and the doubling of John Crichton.
Oh yes,
than I was after.
Oh yes, we're going to have to see how that's going to play out.
Right?
Yeah.
Because with the death of Erin, I didn't really believe she was dead.
No.
Right, and it's just how are they going to deal with that? But now there's so much more potential to this idea. Do we have two leads? What's going to happen?
And that's the story so far, Skip.
Join us in 2 weeks. You can find us at SoFarscape on Facebook and Twitter. SoFarscape.com/fanfic. If you want to send us your recommendation for fanfiction, we have some really, really great suggestions and we'd love to find out more. Our friend Kathy, who recommended the Zan Ficathon by Astrogirl, reached out to some of the original writers and they were apparently delighted that we still enjoyed their stories from 15 years ago.
That people were still picking up on these and actually doing readings of them. It's so exciting to be able to do that for people.
Yes!
It kind of makes me feel a little bit like we were part of that ficathon, that story exchange.
A little bit,
We did our little contribution to it, even if it is 15 years after the fact.
SoFarscape.com/synopses if you want to send up in your synopses for upcoming episodes. And hey, season 3 is ripe for the picking, so keep them coming in. And SoFarscape.com/support if you want to join our Patreon and help us keep the lights on. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed Krull, by the way. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
So Farscape, so good.